So before you do that first interview, you want to make sure that you're practicing talking to somebody else first. Practice with a family member, practice with a friend doing an interview. Yeah, it's going to be awkward doing an interview with a family member or a friend, but it's going to be even more awkward when it's somebody you've never met before and they're staring you down. So make sure you practice that first. I can't stress that enough. And then look up some interview questions and have that person ask those questions and then you answer those questions. That will be a big part of you getting prepared. Also, you want to make sure that you're looking the person in the eyes. Now, it's very intimidating looking at somebody in the eyes. What you can do is look right here. Look right between their eyes. That way the intimidation is not there. Maybe even up a little bit, but that way you're not looking right in their eyes. That is going to be a very important thing. So practicing with that is a good thing. You want to make sure you're practicing. You want to make sure you're getting ready for that. Also, have a list of questions yourself. Don't let them be the one asking all the questions. Make sure that you're asking questions as well. Go do an information search. Do a search for the company. Find out ahead of time what type of equipment they install. Then when it turns out, do you have any questions? Sure, I know that you're a Carrier dealer. Are you installing a new line Carrier whatever product? Who cares? But it shows that you've done research in their company and it shows that you're invested in what they do. That's a big deal. Look to say questions like, hey, what type of a turnover rate do you have? What type of service vehicles do you have? What kind of clientele do you have? Do you work on whatever size houses or systems? Have some questions that are interesting for the employer that make them interested. Ask about training. Hey, what kind of training programs do you have? Do you sponsor training? Do you have your own in-house training program? If I get more certifications, is there any kind of a lead for that for me? Is there any kind of growth plan for me? Those are things that show initiative for you, that are able to ask questions for your side, and it's questions that the employer really like to have. They like to know, oh, this person knows about the Carrier equipment. This person knows about Linux equipment. This person knows about whatever it is that they're selling. That's important to have on there. So that kind of stuff can really play a part in it. Look up reviews. Look up kind of what kind of systems they're having. Look at their customer service. Look at everything you can about that company and make a list of questions. Write these questions down because you can't remember them all. There's going to be too much rolled around in your head. That way, when they're asking questions, you can reply back. Also have that pen and paper with you, so when they're asking you questions, you can be writing stuff down. And for the love of God, turn off your phone. Don't have your phone on in the interview. Have it on silent. It's a tool. It's a great tool, but have that off. So now when you're asking questions, you're asking it from a piece of paper. I know it's outdated, paper and pen's outdated, but it shows that you're not on your phone, because that's a pet peeve for a lot of employers, people being on their phone. These young people are just always on their phone, those whippersnappers. Yeah, it's a tool. We should be on our phones, but showing that you can put the phone to the side, not use it, and then have that pen and paper and have questions to ask is so very, very important. That can be very powerful. Having your tool bag there, so they ask, hey, what kind of tools do you have? If you have your tools, whatever tools you have, say, yeah, this is the tool I have. I know that I don't have everything I need, but if you have a list, I'll start working on a plan to get those tools. And that shows initiative. This person doesn't have it, but they're willing to invest and get that. Practice ahead of time. The more you practice, the better it's going to be. And also, let's talk about some other things. When you first get there, how you walk into the door is going to be important. You want to make sure that you're there 15 minutes early. You want to get to the location about 30 minutes early. That gives you some leeway in case there's traffic or something unexpected. What I like to do is physically drive to the location the night before or the day before to know I can get there on time, to know there's not any unexpected things like maybe train tracks and a train runs during that time of day. So that getting there 30 minutes early gives you a window. Anything bad happens, you got 15 minutes of leeway. But you want to make sure that you're exactly 15 minutes before your interview time. If you get there 30 minutes early, great. Hang out in a car, wait outside, and then show up exactly 15 minutes early. There's an old rule saying, if you're not early, you're late. So you want to make sure that you're there early, but also don't make it too early. 30 minutes is too early to get there. So that 15 minutes is a sweet spot. That's perfect. Now, when you open that door, make sure you're standing up straight. Show that confidence when you're walking in. Have a smile on your face. I don't care how nervous you are. Smile on your face. Practice this with the interviews of other people. And then you go in, you have the confidence. Hey, I'm here for an interview at this time with this person. And then when that person talks to you, great. They're probably going to have you sit. And they may even have you sit past the interview time. This is the tactic that they use. They want to see how you respond under a little bit of pressure. So maybe they don't even interview you until 15 minutes past that time, making you sit there for 30 minutes. I find this absurd that companies do this, but they do. It's a tactic they do. They want to see how you're going to respond. So if you start getting mad, this person has a temper, we're not going to hire them. So these are some things to do. And also the conversation you're having with whoever is at that front desk is going to be important. So make sure you don't volunteer too much information. I've had students before volunteer what happened to them in prison. Like, no, you want to keep that completely away. You don't want to volunteer too much information, and you also don't want to be hitting on that person, him or her, whoever it is. You don't want to be making any kind of excessive comments to. In Miami, one of the students came in and said and called the person mama and all this, and the person got very offended. They kicked the person out and they refused to hire anybody or even interview anybody from the school. So things like that can definitely upset people. So stay professional, talk less, listen more. So when you get to the interview, make sure you go in for a handshake. Now, it's starting to change. In the old days, handshakes were golden. So what you typically do is say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and you just kind of put your hand down, just kind of casually put your hand down. And then if the person goes in for a handshake, you're right there ready to complete that handshake. And then on the other hand, if they don't go for the handshake, don't force it. But a lot of employers, Generation X and also the boomers, they like to have a good solid handshake. So when you do that handshake, you want to go in thumb to thumb, so you make that good contact and a good firm grip. You don't want to break their hand, but a solid firm grip. Make sure you're squeezing and say, hey, I exist. I am here. And when you're doing that, look them right in the eyes, or at least right here, and have that firm grip saying, I exist. I'm a person. I want you to acknowledge me. That's a very powerful thing. A lot of people will judge an interviewee just based on her handshake alone. So yeah, it's kind of a big deal. When you go in, when you sit down to interview, make sure you're having that eye contact, keep your hands down. That's why I love a pen and paper. You have that pen and paper and it allows you to hold something in your hand. You can have this down. And when they're giving you information, make sure you're making notes. Write this stuff down. Even if you're never going to look at it again, that shows that you're interested in what they have to say. And when you ask questions and they answer it, write those answers down. So they're talking about pay, they're talking about the hours you work, holidays, that kind of stuff. Write that information down, make little quick notes on there. That really is powerful for showing initiative, showing an investment. When you go, make sure you have multiple copies of your resume. Maybe there's going to be 4 or 5 people interviewing you. Be ready for that. You want to have a resume ready for everyone that could possibly be there. Plus, you want to always keep one for yourself. So when they're asking you a question, hey, I saw that you worked for John's Yard Care during these years, and they're asking you a question about something you wrote, you don't remember because you're stressed out. Well, now you have your copy of the resume, and you can look at it and ask those questions. Also, do not lie. They will specifically ask you stuff that they know that you're not going to know the answer. So if you don't know the answer, hey, I do not know the answer. However, I have a tool, your phone, and I can find that answer out. I can get right back to you. If you want, I can look it up right now, or I can look it up for you tomorrow, but I can definitely find the answer to your question. That's powerful. That's important in itself. You don't know everything. What don't you know? You don't know. You don't know what you don't know. But being able to admit that is important. A lot of employers, unfortunately, will give you some false or misleading information just to see if you're going to be honest or not. So if you don't know the answer, say that you don't know, and it's okay for that. And maybe you don't know a lot of things. And that's okay. That is perfectly fine. But make sure you're standing up straight. If you have a good posture, making sure you're looking. If there's multiple people, change your gaze between each individual person. Keep moving back and forth. Again, practice this with friends and family first. So when you get there, you're not under that pressure. And remember, you have value, right? Don't be stumbling and trying to catch your words. Take a deep breath, think about what you're going to say, and then say it. And then this is a bit important one. Don't be afraid of silence. When you ask a question and they don't respond, wait. It's okay to have silence. There's a rule saying whoever breaks the silence first, it loses. That's an powerful tool that employers will use. They'll ask you a question, and then they'll have a pause before they go to the next question just to have that awkward silence. And that's a tool. Don't be afraid of the awkward silence. Practice when you're interviewing with your friends and family. Practice that interview. So when you're talking to somebody and you're practicing an interview, practice the silence. What are you going to do? You're going to be like, or are you just going to sit there and be like, practice the silence. Embrace the silence. The silence is going to be okay. And when you ask them a question, they don't answer, wait. Just wait. When they say, hey, how much would it take for you to start working for us? Say, hey, I'm looking for this number. You're looking for it. You stated the number you're looking for. And when they don't reply, let the silence Be your friend. Hold on to that silence. That's good. Let them think about it, because make them be the one to counter offer or make them be the person to ask the next question. Be okay with that. Be firm. You know what you need to make a living. You know what you need to get started. Hold on to that. Whatever it is, let the silence be your friend. At the end of that interview, ask them, was there anything that would prevent me from getting this job? And if there is anything, you can then address that right then. If they say, no, there's not anything else, then you can respond with, well, then when can we expect our next interview? Or even better, well, when can we start? That is important. A lot of people leave that door open. You want to make sure, hey, when can I start? When can we get the next interview? Let's go ahead and get that scheduled in right now. You want to show that. You want to show that initiative. You want to show that drive. That is important. Hey, if there's nothing stopping you from hiring me, then when can I start? That's going to be so important. The other thing is, if you're working for a company now, even if it's a company that you really, really, really dislike, and they say, hey, when can you start? You say, I need to at least give my 2 weeks notice to my current employer to give them respect. And then they're saying, well, we're looking for somebody that can start sooner. So look, I have to give my employer the 2 weeks notice. Now, it's very possible that they're going to let me go sooner than that, and I will be glad to start sooner than that. But as a respect to my current employer, I need to give my 2 weeks notice. That is something that's very powerful, because now they're thinking, when this person leaves me, when that day comes, if that day comes, I know they'll give me that same respect. So that's something that's very powerful for you to do. Make sure you're not talking bad about your last job. Your last job could have literally stolen money from your paycheck. Your last job could have treated you like a subhuman. Your last employer could be in jail for something they did to you. You want to make sure that you leave all of that separate, because your current employer or your potential employer, they really don't care about that. And if they hear something negative, you say something negative about them, they're thinking, man, this person is going to be talking about us. We don't want that. So keep those negative things down. Hey, why'd you leave your last job? Looking for better opportunity. That's like the golden answer. Like, who asks why you left your last job? Who cares? But they'll ask you. So the answer I have no problem with, looking for better opportunity. Had an opportunity for a better position. And in your entry-level position, the best thing is, I'm leaving my last job because this is the career that I chose. I'm excited to be in HVAC. I'm excited to have this position. And that's what you want to look for. Now, as far as other interview questions, do a search online, because there's endless numbers of interview questions. There's a lot of people that are asking interview questions of what's your 10-year goal, which I find absurd. People ask, what is one of the things you're bad at, which I find absurd. I don't think they should ask that, but they can, and they do. If somebody asks me what's my biggest weakness, I simply tell them spelling. Like, I struggle with spelling. I'm a really bad speller. And most of the time they'll laugh, because most people understand that spelling has nothing to do with your mechanical aptitude abilities, but some people do. But it's an easy out for me. Something like, hey, I'm always getting bored. I need to have strive. I need to strive for something new. There's all kinds of things you can answer that, but think about the answer ahead of time. Look up interview questions. And now there's even some companies online that have interview questions that company specifically asks. So if you're going to, say, work for 1 hour heating and cooling, you do a search for them, and they'll have a list of interview questions that company typically asks ahead of time. So now you can be prepared, or somewhat prepared, for what some of those questions are going to be. But again, there's going to be off-the-wall questions, and that's okay. Be confident with it. Now, a company can also ask you a question of, how would you handle this? And you can really reply back with thinking of a situation you can connect to. Well, that's a great question. When I worked back at the restaurant, we had this situation, blah, 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 blah. So now you've laid a situation. And then you can say, here's how I handled that situation. Here's how I addressed that situation. So now you addressed it by, here's my solution I did. And then end it with, here's the outcome. The outcome was you saved the day, and Bambi walked across, and everybody started singing a Disney song. However, you had a situation that related to what they're asking, you handled it in a certain way, and then you had an outcome, how it ended up in the overall. So that's a great little way to add in to interview questions. And again, practice this with friends and family first, so when you get to that employer, it's going to be okay. And if you bomb an interview, who cares? There's still a whole bunch more companies out there. Now you have some experience. You have some experience interviewing. Interview with another one. Again and again, you keep going and keep applying to different companies, and you don't give up until you finally get that first job that you want. Then you get that first job. Now you're unlimited. And we'll talk about after you land that first job in a separate video.